Mark, as you know, we're a 501c3. We're a nonprofit organization that empowers people and families who are dealing with drug and alcohol addiction to solve their problems and help those who cannot. We do it through direct advocacy, broadcasting, and maintaining a database of recovery centers and related information. So call into the studio at 1-888-728-9941 and let us know how Clean and Sober Media has helped you in or get into sobriety. What's news this week, Mark?
So the Mexican government on Thursday sent to the United States 29 top cartel operatives from Mexico. They were wanted by American authorities for drug trafficking. This includes a notorious drug lord who the U.S. has been trying to bring to justice for 40 years. It is seen as the most important effort by Mexico in recent history. Among those flown to the U.S. is Rafael Cairo Quintero, a founder of the Sinaloa drug cartel who had been convicted of killing Enrique Camarena in 1985, who was a USA DEA agent.
I remember that story, and I never thought they would catch the person.
Yeah, so he was arrested in Mexico, but he was extradited now to the United States. And the thing about him was if you're familiar with Narcos, they have a whole Narcos thing where he's involved in that.
Wow,
yeah.
man. So this guy has been looking over his shoulder for over 40 years.
And these were big cartel operatives that were sent over, which is a good sign. It's a really good sign. You know how we've been talking about stopping the cartels in Mexico.
Right.
So I thought it was very positive. It was actually in reaction to the whole tariff thing on Mexico.
Sure.
Where they're trying to prevent tariffs from being on there. So I thought it was a good thing. We'll take it, Gary.
That is a really incredible story. And that was like to kill a DEA agent. Yeah. That's a big mistake.
What was that like? Because I can't remember. I was 10 years old.
We don't want to hear that, Mark.
What was that like in 1985? Was that like all over the nightly news?
All over the news. And you would never think they could catch somebody in Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, millions of people. But that's a great story. Listen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to get, hopefully, the audience to tell us how they have liked this show over 13 years we've been broadcasting. We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hey, this is Jackie Martling, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio. This is still Jackie Martling, and you should listen to Clean and Sober Radio. Everybody should listen to Clean and Sober Radio.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
You can enjoy this show on a lot of radio stations in a lot of cities, and here are some of them. WWDB in Philadelphia, WPEN 97.5 FM HD2 in Philly, WGAC in Augusta, Georgia, WJBR 1010 in Tampa, Florida, just to name a few.
One pill makes you larger.
Hey, we are back, and as we said before the break, this show is going to be special, and I hope this format, part of it, lasts for a while now. We've been doing this, Mark, for 13 years, okay? And we think we have a pretty good show here, but we've never actually asked the audience, or if you're calling in, tell us how this show has helped you. Tell us the good parts of this show that you enjoy. Tell us the ones you really don't care about. And that's what we want to hear.
Yeah, it's great to get participation and help from the audience because so many times we get help. People answer questions for us, etc., especially on our Facebook message board. But we really want to hear tips, things that you want to see on this show.
Yeah, I mean, Mark and I, because we're so close to this, obviously, we think whatever we're doing is
cool.
pretty good, okay? And I think most of it is. But there might be some things that we don't know about. We need the audience participation. And Brad, what do you call it? Proof of performance. That's what we're looking for. So if you call in 1-888-728-9941, 1-888-728-9941, let us know how you're digging the show.
Yes, and give us some ideas. We would love to hear some creative ideas about how we can make improvements.
Yeah. And if we've helped you get into treatment, all that kind of stuff, let us know, because the goal here, we do have fun doing the show, but it's a serious subject, and the goal here is to make sure to help people, to guide people to get into treatment.
Yes, and it would be nice, I was thinking, just to get more calls of, somebody that might be struggling and how we can help out. We can give them suggestions, etc. That would be cool.
Because as far as I know, we're the only format, live radio in this country that does this.
I believe so. I know that there's podcasts and things, but you don't hear about live, actual on the radio shows. And I always think it's so cool to just think that people in all different areas throughout the United States are listening to this show right now.
Yeah,
and it probably gives them a lot of feelings of getting out of isolation,
And you always bring that up. Isolation can be a real killer, can't it?
Yes, it can. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that we look for. Myself as an addictions counselor, somebody comes in and a lot of times they're completely isolated from family, friends, and it's the same thing with depression. You see that a lot with depression, where somebody's really feeling bad and they push away from family, and the answer in recovery is getting that support.
Yeah. And, if we're talking a little bit about depression, because, all this mental illness, depression, suicide. What is the suicide hotline number, Mark?
So the suicide hotline number is 988. You can call that at any time if you're having suicidal thoughts, self-destructive thoughts. Call that number and you will be able to get help. And that's a pretty new thing over the last, I think, 2 years where you can call that number.
Right. And the number that we like to give out if you think you need help, or you need help, or a loved one needs help, you call the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Hotline at 1-800-662-HELP. 1-800-662-HELP. Put that on your refrigerator.
Yeah, and it's important. Believe it or not, springtime is one of the highest suicide rates when it turns from winter to spring. And people don't really suspect that. They think that, okay, well, it's spring, people are going to get happy. And what happens a lot of times is somebody's depressed. Maybe they get a little bit more energy to think of a plan or what have you. And they also look around and they're like, everybody looks happy all of a sudden, and I am feeling really bad. And so you've really got to check in with family members that are struggling with depression, check on them, make sure they're okay.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really does. The weather is changing. You're seeing people outside. They're laughing. They're having fun. The weather's good. And you're inside watching this, and it can really do a number on you. Hey, we had a couple emails this week.
That's always cool.
While we're waiting for the phone calls.
Yes, it's
Again,
ringing off the hook.
The phone number is 1-888-728-9941.
By the way,
yeah,
isn't it great to have Brad back in the studio compared to last week? For anybody that listened to the show?
Yeah.
Well,
they actually couldn't listen to the show.
They couldn't listen. We tried to, Brad, our cameraman.
You did your best, Mark.
We tried to get it going, but
here we go. Cindy G. from Bedford, New York. I've been in long-term sobriety 34 years. When I was coming up, the concept of relapse was not so readily accepted. It seems like now the bar has been lowered and any kind of sobriety is accepted.
It's a controversial subject, Gary.
It is.
It's a controversial subject. And, people have lots of different opinions. And, as a therapist, I fall into sort of the old school, but I'll tell you what, my bottom line is somebody functioning and doing better? Because there's lots of ways, for instance, like if somebody's on medically assisted treatment, I'm as a therapist, I'm just happy to see them not overdosing. I'm happy to see them back at work.
Absolutely.
And you see big changes, and how can you knock that?
I
right?
totally agree with you. We're in agreement with this. But I do remember when I was in rehab in the 80s, you were not allowed to have any medical assistant, any medicine. I don't care what it was. And that must have been, thinking back on it, that must have been really tough for a lot of people. So I think that the change happened when certain facilities started to understand the importance of MAT, and then the other facilities had to go along with it or they wouldn't fill their beds.
Well, and there are a lot of studies back it. And one of the big thing that changed it was the opioid epidemic.
Was it
I
really?
mean, oh my gosh, like I'll tell you what, as a therapist, you see overdoses, you hear of deaths, all those things, but we would be stepping over bodies. I mean, without MAT and fentanyl out there, you get these young adults that come in, 22 years old, and you don't have the room for them to be relapsing and coming back because there's a good chance they can just go out and OD and die.
Right.
And so it's definitely been a lifesaver. I mean, we see horrible overdose and death rates now, but if we did not have things like Suboxone, I can't even imagine what it would be.
Well, when you started in your practice, was the opioid epidemic, it wasn't in full blast. It was just starting? What was it?
Yeah, so all the way back in 2005, you would hear about it, but it wasn't the same. And, and a lot of it was pills, right? Percocet, Oxycontin, things like that. But right around 2007, 2010, you started to see more of the synthetic, start coming in the picture. And it just I would have never, ever dreamed it would have gotten as bad as it did. Like, it was bad back then, but it was nothing compared to the amount of death that you saw in the last couple of years from fentanyl. I mean, I'll give you an example. You heard about fentanyl. Batches would come through and, into the heroin supply. And you would hear about all these deaths. It would be in the newspaper in Philadelphia that there was a bad dope going around.
Yeah.
At some point, that turned to all the dope is fentanyl in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that was a big change, isn't it?
Huge.
And what about, we're starting to hear about Xyzoline, Trank?
Yes.
It's called on the street.
Yes, and it's really ugly. I mean, it's really ugly. You're seeing people with huge skin abscesses. You're seeing people with ending up with getting amputations.
Well, I can tell you something. A friend of mine is a physician, emergency room physician at Jefferson Tarsdale, which is Philadelphia, I guess. And 2 weeks ago, he showed me a picture.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cheesesteak.
Yeah.
It was somebody's arm with no skin on it. And
Yeah.
I said, how do you? He goes, we amputate, just like you said. We just amputate.
Yeah, it is so bad. I mean, there's people in wheelchairs that are 24, 25 years old that lost a limb. Yeah. You're getting flesh-eating bacteria. I mean, you're getting all kinds of stuff.
And then people that have no contact or connection to addiction, they're saying, who would do that? If that,
yeah,
they have to understand this is a sickness, it's a disease, and that's why we think that our show is so important because we give the information out how to live a better life if you want it.
Yeah, and it's always cool to think of somebody driving along, and they tune into this show, and maybe they're struggling with an addiction problem, and to be able to hear some hope, to be able to hear that there's, this whole group staying clean and sober in the United States right now.
Right, and we laugh a lot on the show. I mean, you have to laugh in sobriety. You have to live your life, and maybe we're laughing because things are funny, or maybe they're not funny, but we have to. Yeah, when you get into sobriety, your life changes, and what was once the way of life and very horrible. Now you can enjoy your life. I guess what we're saying is there's a way out of this if you're alive.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up that you can enjoy your life now, because I talk to all people coming in as an addictions counselor that have completely forgotten that they can enjoy life without drugs and alcohol. They come in and it's such an adjustment because, they've been tapping these pleasure centers in the brain synthetically. And in early recovery, like that stuff doesn't come back right away. Things like dopamine, feel-good neurochemicals. And, they really think like I'm never going to enjoy anything again.
I thought that. I really did.
Did too. I thought my life was like,
how could I go on a vacation?
Oh,
How could I get on a
gosh.
plane? How could I do this without being ripped out of my mind?
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yeah. Hey, if you're just joining us now, Mark and I are talking about the show, actually, and what we believe we have given to the community in the last 13 years. And we're just waiting for some folks to call us and tell us that we did help them. We did help. We did have a family member help. What, do you have something there, Mark?
Yeah, we got a bunch of people
Go ahead.
Tuning in here. We got our buddy Lou Montana.
Hey, Lou.
Watching and saying, good to see you, Gary and Mark. We see viewing you guys, Mike Burke. That's my Delco speaking, Delaware County in Media, PA. He's viewing yous guys. And James Bilderback is tuning in from Ventnor.
Yes, he is. He actually lives in the building I live in.
Does he?
He's a great guy, man. He's a great guy. Kathy Collin from Coral Springs, Florida. Love the show. Thanks for reprogramming the show. If I happen to miss something. Well, we're not actually going to reprogram. We're going to hopefully add some stuff and, make it more, I guess, audience friendly. If the audience wants it, we're going to give it.
Yes, and I think she might be alluding to our podcast, that if you cannot tune in, you can listen to our podcast later. And my beautiful wife, Andrea Diaz, is watching.
Did you say anything about Ted Klotz?
You know what? I did not.
He said, hey, I like the wisdom of years clean and a good therapist.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah, Todd has been watching for a long time. He is actually a 4-year veteran of Clean and Sober Radio.
Well, I want to say at that point, thanks for your service, but we really, really appreciate it. Marlene Reese Oren's Lerner is watching. We're helping people. We want to help more people.
Yes, and we would love to hear from you. We want to hear suggestions for the show. We want to hear. This is kind of like spring cleaning, right? We want to make sure that the show is new, improves over time, and give us a call at 888-728-9941. That is 888-728-9941.
All right, let me ask you something. Do you have to put a 1 in front of it?
That's a great.
Do you?
No.
No, that's no more?
But it's on there. You have
but
it
you don't
written
have to
on
put
there.
it on.
No. And it still plays. Yeah. Remember that? For long distance calls, you had to put a 1 in front of them.
But a lot. If you recall in Europe, you had to put a whole lot of stuff on. Did you get Carlos Ricardo?
I did not. And C. Ruger, our buddy.
Yeah. Eddie Kilgore. Eddie K.
Eddie K.
Look, all you people, it's real nice. Call in and tell us how we have helped you, if we have. And call us if you're sick of watching us and listening.
Yeah, give us a call and let us know, what kind of changes we can make if we need some.
Absolutely. And we have a caller on the line right now. Caller, welcome to Clean and Sober Radio.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello, yeah. I'd like to speak to Gary and Mark.
This is Gary and Mark.
Is it? Oh.
It is. And guess what, Mark W.? Thanks for calling in, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. Listen, gratitude is not just an album by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's a feeling that you get, and I'm grateful. Listen, I've been listening for, I don't know, maybe 6-7 years. I've been a guest. I've been a co-host. I have all these friends that are associated with you guys. I mean, Gary and Mark are dear friends of mine, and Brad and Linda E. and the judges, and it's just so wonderful to have a family like that.
Yeah.
We all have one common welfare, and the common welfare is that like we don't want to see anybody die from the use of drugs. We don't want to see anybody use drugs, and it's not like we're better than everybody else. It's that we're the same. That's anonymity, spiritual in nature, and it just means that anonymous. That just means that we're all the same. So like. This is really an anonymous program, not meaning that we're hiding from somebody. It means that we're all the same, and I am so grateful that I've been through some stuff. Obviously waiting on a kidney, but I'm grateful that I wake up in the morning, and I'm grateful that I can get home from dialysis, and I'm grateful that I can go participate in my recovery. And let me tell you something. Fridays, because I go Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and Fridays I am so beat, and I come home and I put the radio on or put Facebook on, and as soon as I hear the voices, as soon as I hear your voice or Mark's voice, and we don't hear Brad's voice, but we get to see him sometimes. But it's just so refreshing.
And it's so good to hear, Mark. And I think what you're saying is, you in some way you look forward to the show, and it's familiar and it's comforting to you.
It is comforting, very comforting. I mean, listen, you and I talk. We're personal friends. We talk during the week,
Yep.
and we talk a lot about recovery, and listen, we talk about other things too. I mean, we're both in the record business, and there's a lot to talk about. We go to different events together. I've had the pleasure of going with you to the radio, the Broadcast Pioneers luncheon, and the Dara stuff, and it's so. I mean, you introduced me to all these people, and it's like I said. When I come home on a Friday, I'm beat. And then I just want to go to sleep. But you know what? This keeps me awake.
Well, we're glad. First of all, especially Mark, we know you're going through a lot of medical stuff, and we're glad that that a little piece of it helps you each week, and for that, that's a good enough reason for Mark and I to be doing this show.
Yeah, you know how much I love you guys, and I mean that sincerely. Like you always say, Gary. Oh, I know Mark. He's a dear friend of mine, and I'm honored to be a friend of yours and a friend of Mark's. And I know Mark a long time, and we go way back. And
yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Well,
And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful. That's all I could say. Is I'm grateful for this show. I'm grateful for how it makes me feel, and I'm grateful that I don't hear just war stories. I hear experience, of course, and I hear a lot of strength, and most of all, I hear the hope.
Right.
So if you're listening, there's such a great amount of hope out there, and you don't have to live like that. You don't have to live like, where's my next one? You can just have a good life no matter what. So,
okay, listen, brother, we love you too. I got to go to a break,
Mark.
and hang in there, and I'll talk to you over the weekend.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
And we'll be right back with some more, hopefully more stories from our dedicated listeners.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. The power to out-science cancer.
Hey man, this is Ricky Byrd, former member of Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, an inductee to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as of 2015, and I listen to Clean and Sober Radio, and so do my friends here, right?
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
And we are back. Clean and Sober Radio out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You know, on that drop was Ricky Byrd. He was with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. And we do get entertainers on here. And last week or the week before, we had Mark Stein from...
That's great.
From...
Vanilla Fudge?
Vanilla Fudge.
Wow, how did
Thank
I
you.
get that?
And you know what? You know, we've had him on here 3 times. I never met him, but Wednesday night, I was at the Cellar...
I saw the picture.
Theater outside of Philadelphia, and I got to meet him. And that band, 3 of the 4 members are still there. They're from the late 60s. Unbelievable musicians. And Mark, of course, Stein, is sober. I don't know about the rest of the members. It was an unbelievable show. I went there with Jim Petrowski, and it was good to see one of these guys that are still around. He's been clean for a long time and still doing his music.
Yeah, what a great guy. And I'm happy you got out to actually meet him.
Yeah.
You know, that's super cool.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's see what I got. Bill F. from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He says, although I've never called into the show, well, you should start, Bill, I am listening. Keep going, Gary and Mark. You've helped a lot of people.
That's nice to hear. That's nice to hear. And we'll put the number out again, 888-728-9941. We'd love to hear from you about how we can make the show better.
Can you how about, can we think of anything?
Well,
what do you think?
You know, we thought of things over the years, and people might laugh. We thought of everything from recovery trivia to, at one point, I had a map that we were putting tax in for every...
Right, you remember that?
Every state where people would call from.
It was a great idea, folks, but the problem was Mark always left the map in his trunk.
I did, and I ended up losing the map.
Right. Well, that was a good idea.
That was cool.
What else have we thought of?
We've done some music stuff where we would play more songs, which we're doing now. We're playing more songs.
I remember we really would have liked to have somebody who was still using come on the show, but that became risky for a lot of reasons.
It did. I mean, it became very risky.
I mean, the first risk was, will they show up?
Yes.
And I'll speak for myself. I wasn't that reliable myself, so...
for them to show up.
And then we have to be careful what we say. We cannot curse on this radio station.
And we don't want to be carrying somebody out of here passed out.
That's exactly right.
Another thing.
Yeah, it's another thing. Mark, we have another caller on the line. His name is Delco Mike.
Oh my gosh, Delco Mike, good friend of mine. Hey, Mike.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I just want to say, Mark and Gary, Mark saved my life 709 days ago.
Wow.
I am,
do tell.
Almost 2 years.
That's amazing. Mike, thank you for saying that.
Wow. Is there anything better somebody could say about your character, Mark? No.
I mean, it's humbling. But I got to tell you, Mike put, and it's funny, Mike put in the work. Mike got this. And I'll tell you, Mike, when you came in, Mike was about 100 pounds heavier, right? And a little stubborn. You were stubborn, Mike. I got to tell you, and he
very stubborn.
Sat down. He decided to drink for a little while still in with us.
Okay.
But it went over okay, right, Mike? Do you want to tell the story?
Yeah, so I came in the end of 2020 2022, beginning of 2023, I landed myself with a DUI as a CDL holder, and
oh, really?
Yeah, I work for UPS, so thank God for my union. I didn't lose my job.
Wow.
I was out of work for 5 months. I ran the program with Mark, and he gave me some alcohol test that I passed with flying colors, even though I didn't want to admit that I was an alcoholic back when I first came in. But I gave it up officially on March 22nd of 2023.
That's amazing.
Wow. So you're coming up on what, 2 years?
2 years. Yeah,
That's
the 22nd of this month will be 2 years. So, and I was stubborn, man. It was who I was. And like you guys said before, I didn't know how to have fun without alcohol, or I could live a life without alcohol. But since I've put it down, I've honestly had a lot more fun in sobriety than I ever did when I was drinking. I didn't realize how dead inside I really was until I gave it up. And I found a group of people and a meeting. You actually had the host or the co-founder, the founder of It Works, It Really Does, on your guys' show. And I attend their 9 p.m. Beginners meeting every night at 9 o'clock. And I've been doing it for almost 2 years. So along with that meeting and Mark, there's two things there that really saved my life and brought me out of my alcoholism. I don't want to keep you guys too long. The only thing I could recommend for this show is more days during the week than just Friday.
Okay.
I love the Friday. I look forward to 3 o'clock. I really do. It's another thing that, occupies that time that I would be out drinking. But I think you could reach a bigger community with, maybe two more days, one day. I mean,
let me ask you something, Delco Mike. By the way, where in Delco are you?
I grew up in Prospect Park, and I am currently in Aston, Pennsylvania.
Okay, very good. So, what do you think? Would it be better to have the show for 2 hours, or 1 hour, 2 days?
I would do 1 hour for 2 days. If it's feasible. If not, a 2 hour show on Friday would be amazing.
All right, and you were going to fund this thing? Is that why you're calling?
If only I could.
Hey, listen. We're happy. You're a success story. Keep going, and thanks for calling in. We really appreciate it, man.
Mike, you're the best. Congratulations
Mark,
again.
Yeah, congratulations.
Mark, you're the best.
Good.
And I'm going to go back to listening.
All right, Mike.
Take care, brother.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Is there anything better than somebody could say to you?
It's so nice to hear, and I got to tell you, Mike had some very interesting things that he came up with. Like if he went to a party, he started drinking seltzer water kind of stuff, and he would bring a whole cooler with him.
Oh, one of those guys.
Oh, yeah, because he was drinking coolers of stuff, but he had a lot of stuff. And then he goes to this meeting on Tuesday nights, but he doesn't just go. He stays for the parking lot scene. It's over Zoom. And he sometimes stays on there till 11 at night trying to help the newcomer.
Getting involved.
Yes. Yes. And
how did you meet him again?
Well, he doesn't care about confidentiality stuff, but I got to tell you, I gave him an assessment, which was interesting.
So it was a professional meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You don't have to tell us anything more about that. That's not Mike.
No.
Okay. I don't think we've ever had Delco Mike.
We should have him on the show.
We should.
He's got.
Listen, for our listeners, Delco is short for Delaware County. That is a county outside of Philadelphia. That's where the Delco comes in. Okay.
Yeah, great people come out of Delco. Tough people come out of Delco.
I come out of Delco.
Tough people.
Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I did.
Come out of Delco.
I did.
Hey, listen, Stephen P. from Lansing, Michigan writes to us, I'm starting to hear more and more negative press regarding medical and recreational marijuana. Are you hearing this? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that right now that you just see such a spike because it's like the new thing, and eventually it'll kind of table out. But I mean, you smell it everywhere. I mean, you smell it everywhere. People are driving like crazy with it because, like, I smell it when I'm driving down the road. You drive by people. We're going to smell it a lot more in the spring.
Well, we read a story a couple of weeks ago out of New York Times where they were saying these companies now are making it cheaper but way more powerful.
Yes, and extremely powerful. And this isn't the stuff of even the 80s, right? And it's definitely more dependency. And people think you can't get addicted to this stuff. And I see it all the time. I see times when people can't quit to save their job, or can't quit even though, it's messing with their relationships. And that's when you see that dependency on something.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
Yeah. It's we got some more people I just want to acknowledge. Michael Tomlinson said he'd love to come on the show.
He'd be great.
Here's how to get. I'm not going to give you Mark's cell phone number.
He has
but call in here to our producer at 1-888-728-9941. Give him your name and phone number. Mike Forbes is watching. There's a lot of people watching. This is interesting. I really like to hear how people feel about the show. We've never asked them. We've assumed everybody loves us, but that's not necessarily true.
Yeah, and there's what I love about especially drug and alcohol is there's so much creativity out there. And we'd love to hear, even if it's offline, some ideas, just some ideas of things. We could have maybe even, I was thinking like, what if we had like a newcomer 5 minutes where like newcomers call in? And we could get people to get newcomers to call in.
Yeah, that would bring that would get them involved. I think that's why you and I have been around so long. We got involved. We gave back. We did a lot of stuff. A lot of ideas. Carlos Ricardo says, when the weather breaks, I'm coming out for a stogie, meaning cigar. I'll bring the cigars. All right, you got a deal, Carlos. See, that's part of it. With the recovery, it's not all about AA meetings. You have to live your life.
And that would be awesome if we could have. We talked about doing this before. Get together after the show
in the parking lot.
And everybody. Well, we don't condone smoking cigars. We all do it, but we don't condone it. But everybody come hang out, drink a soda.
I'm going to tell you. If we could get a list of people when the weather breaks, of course.
Yeah.
People that would commit to come. It's not costing you anything. Meet all the listeners. Meet all of us. We'd have a food truck out there. I think it's a great idea.
And I know somebody that has a food truck, David. Remember David that was on the show?
So it's something to think about.
Something to think about. I could just picture like a spring day, 80 degrees. We're all hanging out there in shorts. We'll have to wear shorts to the show that day, Gary. I've never seen you in shorts, I don't think. But
listen, I have nice legs, okay? So it's fine.
We'll bring our island shirts,
What about clothing optional?
Clothing optional. And Mike Burke says, you said, I'm always afraid of this. He said, you said the phone number too fast.
Okay.
So we're going to go.
Slow, man.
All right, Mike. It's 888-728-9941. 888-728-9941. If he's anything like me, he will still forget it.
So would I, Mark.
I mean, the numbers are just so hard to remember.
But I like that idea, not just for smoking outside. People, let our audience come and meet other members who listen to the show, make new friends, and you never know.
I think it's the best idea of the day.
Yeah.
And it's not an original. We thought about that. We talked about getting a food truck last year.
I know. No, it was more. I think it was when we were in the other building.
So meaning
3 years ago.
3 years ago. It seems like last year.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. I had somebody else here.
Mike wrote it down.
Did he write it down?
Yes. Hopefully it was the right number.
I don't know if we read
We've
this.
done that before. We gave out the wrong number.
Did we do that?
Yes.
Mark, I remember when I asked you your phone number where you worked and you didn't know.
Oh, that was not cool.
That must have been 10 years ago.
It was
Easy.
10 years ago, and my work sponsored the show. And Gary's like, yeah, how do you get a hold of them? And there was this big pause, and I had to be like, Gary, I do not remember the phone number.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Let me ask you something. How does this show affect you?
I mean, I'm very grateful for the show.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very grateful for the show because I feel that sense of community that everybody else does, right?
Yeah.
You know, I'm very grateful for the show and for you, Gary, and Brad, and you know, because for us, it's like it's not just like coming for the show. We hang out. If people off the air, we're laughing. We smoke cigars out front. It's
Yeah.
like a little club, you
Yeah.
know. And also, like all the people I've met, like I wouldn't have my job today if it weren't for this show. You know, it was from meeting Chris Tarian,
Absolutely.
former Flyer,
Yeah.
great guy by the way,
Yeah.
who ended up getting me my current job,
Yeah.
right? I mean, there's so many things that
Where's
have come
that
from
current
this
job
show.
again?
That is at Pennsylvania Recovery Centers, and
Okay.
great place. We got offices in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Phoenixville. Great
It is
place.
a great organization.
Yes.
But besides, look, and I feel the same way. I feel grateful for this show, and I feel grateful how the three of us work together.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
we think alike.
Exactly alike.
You know, we really do.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, I couldn't think of a better co-host than you.
Oh,
Mark.
thanks, Gary. I appreciate it.
And
you know.
and this guy here,
We've learned
Brad,
last
show
week.
him your face, would you? Oh my God.
We learned his importance last week.
Yeah, we did.
We had a show with no sound on Facebook. Remember?
Yeah. And we got, we have board operators. We got Tyler.
Yes.
You know, I mean, we're lucky. This team is very, very lucky.
There's Brad. By the way, somebody asked a question on here on the message
What
board.
was it?
He says he had a friend that killed himself, unfortunately, after 6 years away from cocaine, and due to depression. And he said, "Could you explain anhedonia?" So anhedonia is like a low level depression where you can't feel very much pleasure in things and at all a lot of times. And people they can be on this low level depression where they don't realize that they're quite depressed.
Okay.
And it kind of falls through the cracks. And you see that a lot with people that have used a lot of things like cocaine, meth, where it's really hard for the brain to kick back in with the normal pleasure chemicals. But it's a form of depression. You see it a lot in males. They don't even realize they're depressed.
It's called anhedonia?
Anhedonia.
Now, so you said it's low level. So does it rise to the level of suicide?
Anhedonia usually would not. It's a very low level.
And it
But
stays
people
at a low level?
it can stay there. And the thing is that people will have this and they're still holding jobs and they're still, but over years, it can really take a toll. And if you got anhedonia, there's sometimes when you can go into, a severe depressive disorder, which is probably this friend of his that after 6 years, probably. The thing is that we use drugs, a lot of us, for a reason, right?
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you have this horrible depression that's underlying. You get clean, and sometimes it gets to the point where somebody's so depressed and they don't have the relapse to go to, and they commit suicide.
Wow.
So
on that note,
yes,
on that pleasant note, now I must have, what is it called?
oh my anhedonia, and we just
Anhedonia.
went from parties to this.
Yeah.
That was,
Listen, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and continue talking about the show, basically. All right? We'll be right back.
This is Clean and Sober Radio.
A cancer diagnosis can knock the wind out of you. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health can help. Our brand new Asplund Cancer Pavilion brings you 86,000 square feet of cancer-fighting science for truly comprehensive care. Backed by the strength of an NCI-designated cancer center. Call 1-800-JEFF now. The Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center at Abington Jefferson Health. the power to outscience cancer.
What's happening? Brandon Novak here from Those Movies Jacks, or author of that addiction memoir, Dream Seller. Do me a favor and tune into Clean and Sober Radio with Gary Hendler.
888-728-9941. This is Clean and Sober Radio.
We're back. You found us, Clean and Sober Radio.
Yes, and I'm so sure that there's some people that are listening to the radio that are very shocked to run into this show.
Yeah, probably.
You know,
I wanted to ask Brad, just for clarity and transparency. Brad is not in recovery and doesn't need to be, but this guy has learned. Brad, how much have you learned being on this show for the last years and years and years?
Oh, just tons. Empathy, for starters.
Yeah.
And the struggle that people have, that it's out of their control until they finally surrender to it. It's so easy, and I've seen posts on Facebook and the like of criticizing the stigma of the person that's suffering from addiction as if it's fun. If I've learned anything, and especially, you talk about the people on the street, whatever, they're not there because they want to be. This is a mental health issue. And that's really, I think, the challenge that we have as a society is dealing with the mental health that takes you to wanting to escape your mind, your existence with drugs. And,
I mean, you've really, Brad and I, we talk, on the way here, the way back. If you're not in this world, it must be a shock at first to believe that people actually live like this when you don't,
It's, have you ever seen the question, if you had to speak for 30 minutes on a subject, what would you talk about? And I feel that, although I haven't had personal experience with it, I feel that the guests that we've had, both on the phone and in the studio, and knowing you guys now so well, that I could probably do it. I could probably go 30 minutes on mental health and,
I bet you could,
the struggles
man.
and all that. And it's all been, part of the education and part of the exposure. And that's the other thing is, until you're exposed to it, and Gary, you've referenced that also, that, until it's in your family, until you lose a loved one, you don't get it necessarily. Some people don't get it.
Right. Or care, But you would be a good. I think you might know more about this disease than me.
No, I don't think so.
Man.
But I appreciate the opportunity to speak about it.
And by the way, we really appreciate all that you do for this show, man.
Well, it's a pleasure.
And
a blessing, in fact.
Thank you. So, what else could we do here? We could bug people to call us at 888-728-9941. Let us know, because if you don't let us know, nothing changes.
Yeah, I mean, could we do some kind of I don't know, it might be dumb.
Let's hear it.
Recovery trivia every once in a while. Or you know what we should really do? We should do prank calls. I used to love that. Or when you hear prank calls.
I have an idea.
What?
I think we need a house band.
A house band.
What do you think?
Well, Mike Brill.
Yeah, right.
Remember he brought his guitar? We should do more of that, is have musicians on that play songs. Gary's totally rolling his eyes over here with those 3 ideas.
I want to tell you what happened to me. I was at the Sellersville Theater seeing Vanilla Fudge. I was lucky enough to be up front, and there was a cameraman with a long lens camera that was about 8 or 9 inches long, and it was right. I want to say 2 inches from my ear.
Oh no!
I'm not real patient person, and I turned around to him. I can't even say what I said to him on the radio, and he walked away. This is the lesson I learned. You don't know who you're talking to, because after the show, he came up to me and he said, "You're the host of the Clean and Sober Radio show, aren't you?" Yeah.
Who was it?
What's his name?
Was he a friend of Vanilla Fudge?
It was he goes around the country filming concerts. When he said that, and I was going to do this anyway, I said, listen, my behavior wasn't right. I really apologize. We hug each other, but the lesson was, you don't know who you're talking to.
I can see this whole thing go on.
Oh, yeah. Hey, listen, enough of me. Lou Montana's on the phone. Let's get him real quick.
Lou.
Gentlemen.
How are you, Lou?
Hey, Lou.
I'm doing
Lou,
terrific.
Seriously, what has this show meant to you?
Listen, when I have a free moment, which seems to be on Friday afternoon, I would tune into this radio station, right?
Yeah.
It is now part of my recovery.
Oh, that's nice.
Right?
Yep.
I make sure that if I'm capable, right?
Yeah.
I don't lay on the couch. I don't do none of that crap.
Yeah.
This radio show gives me another hour of sobriety, right? And clean time.
Wow.
So hearing people's stories out here, hearing people call in, hearing you guys, it's just another armor in my arsenal that I have to keep me where I'm at, grounded, peaceful, serenity in my life, right? And to tell somebody out there who's listening right now, who's probably sitting behind the phone or listening on a phone, that you can do this, right? It might just be the seed that somebody needs. So I had no idea you were on as many years, 13 years?
Yeah,
right?
almost 13, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. If I'd have known that, I'd have been on here 13 years. I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I found Mark, right?
Yeah.
And just hearing the stories and the devastation in people's lives and sitting there and thinking to myself, been there, did that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Lou, what we have in common? We're both grateful that we found Mark.
Thanks. Everybody's giving me compliments today. It's very nice.
True.
Thank you, guys.
Lou, I want to tell you something, Lou. We really appreciate your support.
Absolutely.
You know, you're like one of the inner circle.
Listen, if I can be on here, and I try to make sure I'm on here,
yeah.
Right? If somebody says to me, I need a ride to the doctor's next Friday, I'm like, well, make it for Monday because
he'll come
right?
with the cast on his leg. He'll come. I mean, yeah.
Wait, is Lou the one that said he had a knee replacement with no
yes,
anesthesia?
without
anesthesia?
and pain meds.
Lou, come clean,
Yes.
will you?
Yes. Now, listen, I've had a rod put in my foot. I've had 2 knees put in, a hip put in, a thumb put in. I have not taken one Percocet.
Listen.
Right? Not because I'm a hero or a martyr or anything like that, but because I just don't need it.
But
right?
you had anesthesia when you had the surgery, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, they put me to sleep. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's common
we thought
sense,
you
right?
were...
If they gave him the option, he'd probably be like, no, don't worry about anesthesia.
Tough guy.
Absolutely.
He's a tough guy. Hey, listen, brother. Lou,
I'm not that tough.
Lou,
right? But I do, yes.
All kidding aside, thank you so much. We got to go. We're at the hour. And just thanks and best of luck. Have a great weekend. All right, brother?
See you,
guys
Lou.
have a good weekend.
See you tomorrow night, hopefully.
There you go.
I'll see you, brother.
All right, man.
Great. That's great. What do you have, Tyler? 2. Okay. I love the show. We're getting information what we asked for, and we'll keep it going. You know,
and let us know offline anybody that any ideas that you have.
You can always call into the studio and give the producer your name and phone number. Remember, if you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, help's available. Please call 1-800-662-HELP. For Clean and Sober Radio, I'm Gary Hendler.
I'm Mark Sigmund.
Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for all your support. Have a great, safe week.
Who will rain and chase the dust away?
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition.
Thank you, everybody.